Ah, thank you.
Of course, enjoy.
This looks wonderful.
Let me know if you need anything else.
Blind date gone wrong. The waitress spilled coffee on him, not knowing he owned the restaurant. The lunch crowd had just thinned out, but the smell of roasted coffee beans and buttered bread still lingered in the air. The chatter of customers blended with the hum of soft jazz from the ceiling speakers. Behind the counter, Emily tightened her apron, the faint curls of her blonde hair slipping loose from the clip she had hastily pinned. "Emily," her manager barked, snapping his fingers toward a messy table near the window. "We're short-staffed today. Don't drift off. And remember, smile." She smiled automatically, though her heart was somewhere else entirely. It was her first blind date in years. Her best friend had arranged it after weeks of teasing her about never taking time for herself. "His name's Daniel," her friend had said. "He's calm, kind, maybe a little serious, but trust me, you'll like him." Emily had laughed it off, but curiosity, mixed with a bit of loneliness, had won. She took a deep breath and approached her manager. Could I take an early break today? Just 1 hour, please. It's important." The manager raised a brow. "Important? We're drowning, Emily." "I'll stay late to clean after close," she promised quickly. He sighed, waving a dismissive hand. 1 hour. But if I see you chatting while tables pile up, you're done here." "Thank you," she said, her gratitude genuine. She darted into the restroom, heart pounding, and changed into a plain ivory dress she had tucked in her bag. It wasn't glamorous, just soft fabric and a hope for something simple. She looked at herself in the mirror, brushed her hair, and whispered, "You can do this." The restaurant wasn't fancy, but under the warm afternoon light, it felt intimate, amber reflections dancing across the glassware. A man sat at a table near the center, glancing at his watch. Dark hair, neatly combed, white shirt, calm expression. That had to be him. Emily clutched the tray tighter, palms sweating. Her plan was simple. Bring him coffee, introduce herself, and maybe, if she didn't panic, start a real conversation. But as she approached, nerves tangled in her chest. Her heel caught on the carpet edge, the cup tilted. Hot liquid splashed forward before she could react. The coffee streamed across the man's sleeve and chest, soaking into the crisp white cotton of his shirt. Time froze. Gasps rippled from nearby tables. Emily's face went pale. "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I didn't see. I mean..." She fumbled for a napkin, blotting the shirt uselessly. "Please, let me. I can fix." The man looked down at the stain, then back at her, and, unexpectedly, laughed softly. "It's okay," he said, voice even, almost amused. Then, with a tiny shrug, he added, "Well, at least it wasn't soup." The corners of his mouth lifted, warm and teasing. Emily froze, caught between horror and disbelief. A nervous giggle slipped out before she could stop it. I think I just broke the first rule of a good impression." "You definitely made one," he said, still smiling. She blinked. "Wait, you're not mad?" He shook his head lightly, pulling a napkin from the holder and dabbing his sleeve. "I've had worse meetings. At least this one smells like coffee." Her heart thudded unevenly. Maybe it was the way he spoke, gentle, steady, or maybe the simple grace with which he handled her disaster. "I'm really not usually this clumsy," she murmured. "That's good to know," he said, his tone calm but curious. He studied her face for a moment, eyes kind, voice low. "Are you Emily?" Her breath caught. "Yes," she said, barely above a whisper. "Then," he said, setting his napkin aside and gesturing toward the seat across from him, "why don't we start again?" She hesitated, glancing toward the counter where her manager was watching with a scowl. But Daniel's voice broke through her anxiety, patient and inviting. "Sit down," he said. "Let's make it the best 1-hour date we can." For a second, she forgot about the spilled coffee, the reprimands, the chaos of the day. She only saw his easy smile, his calm eyes. And when she finally sat, cheeks still burning, Daniel leaned back, half grinning. "See?" he said softly. "Perfect start. We've already survived the worst part." Emily laughed, the sound shaky but real. And for the first time that day, she felt the rush of something unexpected, like hope, disguised as a cup of coffee gone wrong. The first few minutes were all awkward smiles and stolen glances. Emily still felt the heat of embarrassment in her cheeks as she folded her hands tightly on her lap. The coffee spill had soaked into Daniel's shirt, but not once had he looked annoyed. That alone made her more nervous. Who was this man, and why was he so calm? Daniel leaned back in his chair and offered a half smile. "You know," he said, lightly tapping the rim of his empty coffee cup, "most dates don't begin with hot beverages being weaponized." Emily let out a soft laugh. "I'm so sorry. Again." He shook his head gently. "Actually, I kinda like the honesty of it." She blinked. "Honesty?" He shrugged. It was real. No pretending, no perfect smiles or memorized lines. Just a very real moment. He grinned. "Besides, it made you unforgettable." Emily smiled, relaxing a little. For the first time, she noticed how his eyes softened when he looked at her, not judging, just curious. "So," he said, "what do you do when you're not practicing your coffee-throwing skills?" That made her laugh again. "I'm a full-time student, studying business, and I work part-time here, obviously. I also help out at a bakery early in the mornings, and do online tutoring in the evenings when I can." Daniel raised an eyebrow. "That's a lot." "Yeah," Emily said, stirring her water with a straw. "Tuition's no joke, rent either. And I've got this dream of opening my own bakery someday. A small place, nothing fancy, just fresh bread, warm coffee, good smells." Daniel leaned in slightly, genuinely interested. "That sounds amazing. What kind of pastries?" Her face lit up. "Croissants, and cinnamon rolls, and apple hand pies in the fall. My mom used to make those every October." "Used to?" "She passed away 3 years ago," Emily said softly. "Cancer." Daniel's expression shifted, tender and understanding. "I'm sorry." Emily nodded, her voice steady. "Thanks. I think I bake partly because of her. It's like a way to keep her close." There was a short silence, not uncomfortable, just thoughtful. "And you still smile through all of that?" Daniel murmured. Emily looked at him, brow slightly raised. "Why wouldn't I?" He tilted his head. "I mean, juggling 3 jobs, school, loss, it's a lot." She gave him a small smile, tired but genuine. "Because I'm still here." The words hung between them, simple but strong. Daniel looked at her with something unreadable in his eyes. Respect, maybe, or awe. "Have you always been this strong?" he asked quietly. Emily chuckled. "No, but I've had a lot of practice." He leaned back, his fingers tracing the edge of his glass. "I know a little about rebuilding," he said after a pause. She glanced up. "Oh?" He nodded. "I ran a business once. It failed spectacularly. Lost almost everything. Had to start over from scratch. Took years." She didn't push for details, and he didn't offer more, but somehow it felt like enough, like he was giving her a glimpse of a scar, not to impress her, but to connect. "I guess we're both survivors," Emily said. Daniel met her eyes. "Maybe that's why this coffee accident felt right." They both laughed, this time easily, freely. A waitress passed by, giving Emily a wink. Daniel noticed and smiled. "You know," he said, "this might be the most honest first date I've ever had." Emily rested her chin on her hand, playfully skeptical. "Because I threw coffee on you?" "Because you didn't try to hide anything." She felt a strange warmth settle in her chest. Not romance, not yet, but something like trust, like recognition. Maybe, just maybe, this date wasn't a disaster after all. They met again in the soft glow of the restaurant's evening light. On a weekday, Daniel made a reservation under a nondescript name. Emily, working her usual shift, recognized the coat hanging by the entrance, but told herself it must be someone else. She moved through the dining room, carrying trays, filling glasses of water, offering soft smiles, greeting familiar faces. She caught sight of him in a booth near the back corner. He was seated alone, casually reading a menu, glancing at the kitchen pass now and then. She forced herself to breathe normally and carry on. When a party of 6 squeezed into the next table and a child dropped crumbs on the floor, Emily darted over to clean it. Daniel watched her quick footsteps, the gentle way she knelt, ensuring no spill lingered. As he watched, he saw more. She paused by an empty table once and returned leftover rolls to the kitchen quietly. She slipped a half-eaten sandwich into a to-go container for someone sitting outside. He saw how she spoke softly to an older man who hovered near the door, someone who looked hungry. She offered him bread with a nod and a reassuring smile. One evening, a customer at the table next to hers slammed his hand on the table. "This dish is cold. How long have you been cooking this?" he snapped at Emily. Her face blanched. She opened her mouth to apologize, stammering. Before she could scurry away, Daniel stood from his seat. He cleared his throat. "Sir, please, she's doing her best." His voice was calm, firm, not dramatic, just direct. The restaurant quieted for a moment. The angry patron hesitated, muttered, then backed down. Emily froze, eyes wide, mouth slightly open. She looked toward Daniel, astonished. She had not expected her accidental date to become her defender. He returned to his seat as though nothing happened, yet she felt something shift in the air between them. After his intervention, patrons resumed their conversation. The piano resumed its soft melody, and the hum of chairs sliding murmured through the room. But Emily's mind raced. Did he really risk that? In his anonymity, in a public place, he did not call attention to himself. He did not demand thanks. He simply stood and quietly defended her. In the days that followed, she found him again at the booth. She pretended not to notice, but he caught her eye through the glass partition. He nodded. She nodded back, heart fluttering. Sometimes she found herself glancing toward the booth even before she walked into work. Did he come tonight? Would he be watching her? One afternoon, during a lull in service, she passed by the manager's office on a raised hallway. She heard Daniel's voice, low, serious, speaking with the floor manager. She paused at the doorway, peeking inside. He spoke in firm yet quiet tones, about scheduling, staff training, supply orders. There were papers with logos she recognized from the restaurant's letterhead. His posture was more commanding than he had ever shown her at their tables. Her heart hammered. She backed away quietly, but the seed of doubt was planted. He was not just a customer. He was something more. That night, as she left the restaurant in the dusk, she looked once more through the windows. She saw him still seated in the booth, watching her. The candlelight flickered across his face. He stood briefly when their eyes met. He gave a small, respectful nod, then returned to his seat. She turned away, breath ragged, mind swirling. Was it possible that the man who defended her, who smiled gently, was also the one making decisions behind those closed doors? Was he the kind of man she might never reach? Still, she couldn't shake the warmth she felt when he spoke up for her. The way he looked at her, not like a patron to service staff, but like someone truly noticing. And though doubt crept in, a flicker of hope remained in her chest. Perhaps the man in the corner booth was not just part of the background, but someone who might become the foreground of her story. That night, she carried that possibility home, holding it close, fragile, and brimming with questions. The morning had started like any other, until it didn't. Emily climbed the narrow staff stairs, a small folded form in her hand. She needed to request a shift change for her final exams, and dreaded the conversation with her always strict manager. The hallway to the office was usually quiet at this hour, but today voices leaked through the closed door. Familiar voices. She paused. Overall, profit margins are up 12% this quarter. The only concern is staffing. We may need to adjust training in the downtown location. That voice, calm, deliberate. Daniel. Emily froze, barely breathing. Another voice, her manager's, responded. Understood, Mr. Carter. We'll begin the assessments next week. Mr. Carter? Emily's heart dropped. No, it couldn't be. She inched closer, and through the small glass window of the office door, she saw him. Daniel. Dressed sharply, standing at the head of the table, pointer in hand, flipping through slides on a screen with the restaurant's logo. Her fingers tightened around the paper in her hand, her stomach twisted. She turned and walked away without knocking, forgetting all about the shift form, about exams, about everything except the heavy thud of betrayal. That evening, when Daniel